In the year 2231, Earth finally received an invitation that would change everything, a call to join the Galactic Concord, the most powerful alliance of civilizations in the galaxy. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, imagining peaceful unity among the stars. But as Earth's sleek silver delegation ship, the Horizon, landed on the enormous capital world of Zareth Prime, dreams quickly met harsh reality. Towering buildings of crystal and light loomed over the landing pad, and alien ambassadors from 100 worlds stood watching with curious eyes and hidden smirks. Earth's ambassador Alyssa Tran stepped forward, calm and dignified in her tailored black uniform, but the whispers had already begun. The crowd saw only a small, unassuming human ship, escorted by 2 compact fighter crafts. The representatives of the Zevrak laughed quietly, calling the vessel a metal egg. The towering Zirathi diplomat clicked his claws in amusement and asked, loud enough for others to hear, if Earth had borrowed its ship from a museum. A reptilian dignitary from the Salak Confederacy muttered that perhaps Earth still used chemical engines. Alyssa heard it all, but remained silent, her expression like glass, still, cool, unreadable. The Concord Council chamber was grand, glowing with floating data streams and planets suspended in holographic orbit, but Earth's delegation was placed far from the central ring, where the older, more respected civilizations sat. When Earth's technological report was presented, the mockery turned into open laughter. Their propulsion systems were outdated, their AI control networks barely aware, and their fleet numbers laughable in comparison to even a minor galactic power. A Zentari delegate, a 4-armed creature of shining skin, mockingly asked if humans had even broken the light barrier without crashing. Alyssa simply gave a nod, her voice steady, saying Earth's records would speak for themselves. Still, the galaxy had already decided. Earth was backward, primitive, and no threat. As the day ended, the human delegation returned to the Horizon, under the shadow of laughter and smug superiority. But deep in the quiet dark of the Kuiper Belt, beyond Earth's farthest outposts, hidden beneath cloaking fields and distortion arrays, a vast fleet of midnight black ships sat in silence. No records of them existed in any database. No images had ever escaped their perimeter. These were the ghost fleets of Sol, each one built in secret, powered by technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien probes and quietly evolved far beyond Concord standards. Their crews trained in isolation. Their weapons were not lasers or torpedoes, but systems that folded space, cracked gravity, and bent energy in impossible ways. On Zareth Prime, no one knew, no one saw. But as night fell across the capital, Alyssa Tran stood at the window of her guest quarters, watching the alien city lights shimmer. She sipped tea from a small black cup, her eyes distant, thoughtful. Behind her, a communication line opened silently. A single voice spoke from the darkness. "Status?" it asked. "Observed, confirmed," Alyssa answered softly. "They see only what we allow. Mockery confirms their blindness." There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again. "Should we prepare the fleet?" Alyssa turned, setting the cup down. Her face was calm, but her words were sharp and cold as steel. "Not yet," she said. "Let them laugh." She looked once more at the stars beyond the window and smiled, not with joy, but with certainty. "When we rise, they won't be laughing." A week after Earth's quiet humiliation on Zareth Prime, the galaxy turned its attention to the edge of Sector 17, where a small outpost called Velron Station had sent a distress signal, short, broken, but clear. Ra'al Thera ships approaching. The Ra'al Thera were known for their aggression, a reptilian empire that obeyed no council and respected no borders. The Concord Council gathered in haste, the holographic room buzzing with voices and fear, but when it was revealed that Velron was within Earth's protectorate zone, the mood shifted from concern to ridicule. "Let the primitives handle it," hissed a Zevrak ambassador. His long neck coiled smugly. A dozen others agreed, chuckling, as if watching a doomed animal stumble into a storm. Earth was ordered to send a response fleet, and most expected a slow, messy failure. The press spun the story within hours, mocking Earth's opportunity to shine. But back on Earth's hidden command deck beneath the Pacific Ocean, Alyssa Tran watched the chatter unfold without blinking. She approved the deployment of 3 ships, Sentinel, Valor, and Hope, all part of Earth's known fleet. Vessels carefully engineered to appear only slightly advanced, just believable enough to satisfy Concord scans. Each had limited AI exposure, clean logs, and weapons that looked standard. The hidden weapons remained sealed unless needed. The ships departed silently, reaching Velron space in less than a day, using slipstream bursts masked as hyperjump tech. But what waited there was not a minor raid. It was a trap. 20 Ryal Thera warships circled the station like vultures, their spikes bristling with plasma cannons. The human ships exited slipspace into a wall of targeting locks. The Ryal Thera commander opened a broadcast, his voice low and guttural. "Flee, humans. This is not your sky." Alyssa Tran watched from Earth, her face lit by blue data light, and simply said, "Engage." What happened next was not war. It was poetry. The 3 Earth ships moved with precision no Concord vessel could match. Sentinel dipped below the RAL formation, its hull rippling as gravitic lenses bent mass around it. Valor launched micro-drones no larger than coins, each one piercing enemy hulls with silent, invisible beams that caused systems to fail without sound or fire. Hope acted last, using its internal AI matrix to project false images of a much larger human fleet. The RAL Thera, confused and surrounded by ghosts, panicked. Within 10 minutes, 15 ships were disabled. 2 more self-destructed by mistake. The final 3 tried to run, but their engines locked. Disabled by code injections Earth had fired at the start of the battle. The entire conflict lasted 14 minutes. Velron Station was safe. The RAL Thera fleet was gone. And Earth's ships were untouched. The conquered surveillance satellites caught fragments of the battle, but data was corrupted, blurred by strange energy patterns no one understood. Still, whispers began to spread. The official Concord report called it unexpected tactical excellence. But on the darker side channels, a new name emerged, Shadow Steel, the whispered nickname for Earth's rumored real fleet. Back on Zereth Prime, the laughter died down. At the next council session, the Zirathi ambassador did not make jokes. The Zevrak remained quiet. Alyssa Tran sat in her place, hands folded, silent as always. She gave no speech, offered no explanation. When asked directly how Earth defeated 20 warships with 3 patrol ships, she simply replied, "Preparation is the difference between survival and extinction." Her tone was calm, her gaze sharp. Behind her words lay a deeper truth, one the galaxy had yet to see. Earth had shown a glimpse, not its full hand, but a flicker. Just enough to remind them that something was hidden beneath the quiet world. They mocked. And while the Concord debated reports and dismissed warnings far beyond the system, deep in the black, Earth's hidden fleet continued to grow, silent, watching and waiting for the day when silence would no longer be enough. 3 days after the Ryal Thera fleet vanished near Velron Station, the Galactic Concord demanded answers, not just from Earth, but from their own intelligence networks, which had failed to predict such a one-sided outcome. And with growing whispers about Earth's possible hidden technology, the Council moved to perform a full audit of Earth's military assets, disguising it as a diplomatic security review. But everyone knew the truth. They wanted to expose Earth's secrets, humiliate them, and remind them of their place, so Earth agreed, but under one condition. The audit team would be escorted to Earth by their own security convoy, and so a fleet of Concord ships, led by the proud cruiser Zenthara's Eye, set course for Earth's orbit, carrying officers from 13 worlds and one curious ambassador from the Zevrak, all eager to see behind the curtain, unaware that they were walking into history, not a trap, but a revelation. For as they entered Earth's solar system, the stars began to shift, not in brightness, not in motion, but in shape, as dark shadows peeled away from what once looked like empty space, and hundreds of hidden vessels emerged from the darkness, moving without sound, their black hulls absorbing light like mirrors of the void, surrounding the Concord convoy in a silent ring. A slow, deliberate encirclement, and panic struck the Concord bridge crews as sirens blared, targeting systems failed, and all signals were scrambled by an energy web Earth activated with perfect timing. Then, from one of the larger ships, a massive vessel 3 times the size of Zenthara's Eye, a communication opened, not in threat, not in boast, but in calm declaration. And Ambassador Elisatran's voice echoed through every ship in the convoy. "You have requested to see what Earth hides. This is what we protect," she said. And with that, the ghost fleet of Sol revealed itself in full, no longer rumor, no longer a myth of secret designs, but real, breathtaking machines of war, shaped like thunderbolts and arrows of night. Each one named after long-lost cities of Earth. Atlantis, Babylon, Carthage, Edo, and inside them were weapons the galaxy had no name for, systems that bent time between pulses, hulls that could split and reform mid-flight, engines that danced between, quantum layers, and one by one each vessel transmitted its ID to the conquered ships, as if daring them to record, daring them to understand. But none did. For the Concord's most advanced computers couldn't even decipher the base logic of Earth's new systems, and still the fleet did not fire, did not threaten, did not boast, only floated in a perfect shield wall around Earth, silent, still, and unstoppable. And in that silence, fear grew. Not because Earth was attacking, but because Earth was choosing not to, showing that power without need, strength without arrogance, and restraint from the once mocked species was more terrifying than any fleet of conquerors. Then, the Concord ships were allowed to land, escorted closely, and the audit team performed their inspection, but they found only controlled files, clean records, ships they had already seen, and empty hangars where no sound remained, and even then, the truth lingered like smoke. They had seen the fleet, yes, but not its limits, not its secrets, only its surface. And that night, as Ambassador Tran stood once again before the council, via hololink, the room was so quiet one could hear the air systems humming, and she spoke plainly. "We hid our power not out of fear, but because we remembered history. Our history. Power shown too early invites war. Power revealed too late invites defeat. We chose patience." And no one laughed this time, no one rolled their eyes or whispered behind folded hands, because what they saw in Earth was not ambition, but certainty. And while the Concord still debated among themselves whether to embrace, isolate, or fear humanity, far beyond them, past the edges of mapped space, the Real Thera were preparing again, wounded by their defeat, burning for revenge, and this time they would not strike small outposts, but targets that mattered. Concord. Capitals, relay stations, trade routes, and they believed Earth had made enemies by showing its hand, but they were wrong, because Earth had not shown its full hand at all, only enough to warn, enough to whisper. And soon, the galaxy would see what humans could truly do when pushed beyond patience. After the hidden armada of Earth revealed itself to the galaxy, the halls of the galactic Concord no longer echoed with laughter or smug remarks. Only silence, whispers, and uneasy glances passed between species who once looked down on humanity, and while some saw Earth's strength as a sign of trust, others saw it as a threat, hiding behind polite words. So cracks began to form in the alliance, not in war, but in fear. Quiet meetings held in shadows, certain worlds discussing possible containment plans, while others, smaller nations and fringe colonies, sent secret messages to Earth requesting protection, advice, or even alliance. And Ambassador Alyssa Tran, now a name known across the stars, responded to everyone, never with promises, but with careful, steady words that spoke of peace, caution and readiness, and all the while, Earth's ghost fleet moved slowly through the edges of known space, not attacking, not occupying, but watching, learning, mapping zones where threats were growing, especially the Ra'al Thera, who had gone silent since their defeat, vanishing into the dark regions beyond the Farsight Nebula. But Earth knew they were preparing something, gathering forces, building new weapons, and unlike the Concord, which argued and delayed, Earth had already sent scouts, small, invisible ships that slipped through the stars like whispers, collecting data. And what they found was worse than expected. Because the Ralthera were no longer alone, they had reached out to old enemies of the Concord, awakened ancient machines from dead systems, and forged pacts with species driven by vengeance. And now a new alliance was forming, not of peace, but of destruction, one aimed at bringing down the entire Concord in one swift strike. And Earth was the reason for their urgency, because the enemy knew that as long as humanity stood, silent and strong, they could never take the galaxy without cost. So their first plan was not to strike Earth directly, but to turn its new potential allies against it, planting false data, spreading lies about Earth's secret hunger for dominance. And slowly, those lies began to take root, causing tension between Earth and the Concord, especially among the old. Powers like the Zevrak and the Zirathi, who now feared Earth's silence more than its strength, and during a special council session, those fears exploded into accusations, with delegates demanding Earth dismantle parts of its fleet, submit to full surveillance, and promise never to expand beyond its home systems. But Alyssa Tran remained calm, her eyes steady, her words simple. We will not break what keeps us safe, and we will not kneel to fear. Her answer split the room. Some delegates left in anger, others stood in quiet support, and a few began drafting sanctions. But the truth was, Earth didn't need the conquered anymore, not in the old way, because dozens of smaller civilizations had already begun sending ships to Earth's orbit, seeking defense agreements, knowledge exchanges, and even technology trade, and Earth accepted each one with care, building something new, not an empire, but a coalition of trust, based not on pride or rank, but on shared survival. And one such ally, the small and clever Kyrin, brought critical intelligence, a map showing Ralthera fleets gathering at the edge of conquered space, targeting 5 vulnerable colonies known for their resources and weak defenses. And when Earth brought this data to the Concord Council, hoping for unity, it was dismissed as manipulation, a trick to spread fear. So Alyssa made a decision. She would not wait. She would not beg. And within hours, Earth's hidden armada began to move, splitting into task forces, heading toward the 5 threatened colonies in silence, without Concord approval, without delay. And only when the skies of those colonies lit up with enemy ships pouring down fire did the Ghost Fleet arrive, not as saviors, not as heroes, but as a wall of light and steel that shattered the enemy's plans in moments, pushing them back with clean precision, rescuing civilians, stabilizing defenses, and disappearing before the Concord's slow-moving ships even arrived. And now, the truth was no longer a secret or a theory. It was seen, felt, recorded. Earth was not rising, it had already risen, and the galaxy had to choose, not whether to accept it, but whether to stand beside it or get swept away, and in the quiet aftermath, as burned colonies healed and enemy wreckage floated, through cold space, the echoes of Earth's choice began to ripple through every star system, echoes that asked a simple question. When the darkness comes, who will you trust to stand in the fire? The attack came without warning, not a slow build-up or a political threat, but a full assault across 3 Concord sectors at once, as the Ral Thera and their secret allies launched coordinated strikes using stealth ships, gravity torpedoes, and virus drones that turned defense systems against their own cities, and chaos spread like wildfire, burning through colonies, trade stations, and border outposts, while the Concord scrambled to respond, too slow, too scattered, still stuck, in debate while worlds burned. And amid the rising smoke of betrayal, one fact became clear. The galaxy had reached its turning point, and what happened next would decide the future of all known life, because the enemy no longer fought for power alone, but to break the unity of civilizations, to sow fear so deep that no trust could remain. And when Concord Command called for help, Earth answered not with speeches or hesitation, but with action, and for the first time, the full Ghost Fleet of Sol moved without secrecy, emerging from hidden zones across a dozen systems, a storm of dark metal and controlled fury, each ship painted only with its name and a small blue emblem of Earth. And their arrival turned defeat into resistance, not just through weapons, but through coordination, because Earth's AI systems linked directly with struggling Concord fleets, restoring targeting, rerouting life support, and jamming enemy signals, creating order where there had been only panic. And from the command deck of the Arclight, Earth's lead battleship, Ambassador Alyssa Tran watched the galaxy shift with every passing hour, her orders calm, her vision clear, guiding fleets like a chess master moving pieces across a star field. And then came the critical moment when a cluster of enemy ships broke through the weakened core of Sector 9, aiming directly for Elaris Prime, the Concord's largest supply and communications hub. And if they took it, the war would spiral beyond recovery. So Alyssa did what the Concord feared most. She took full command of a joint fleet without permission, rallying ships from Earth, the Kyrin, the Vurok, and even a few hesitant Concord vessels whose captains had lost contact with Central Command, and together they raced to Elaris Prime, arriving just before the planet's outer ring was breached. And what followed was a battle that would be studied for generations, as Earth's tactical software managed hundreds of ships in real time, predicting enemy moves before they happened, shielding weaker allies, disabling enemy jump gates, and targeting command ships with surgical strikes, all while on the ground. Earth's elite drop units, wearing armor laced with adaptive nanofiber, landed in burning cities to help civilians evacuate, fighting not for territory but for lives. And after 9 hours of combat, the skies cleared, the enemy fell back, and Elaris Prime stood, shaken but unbroken. And the news of that victory spread across every channel, every relay, reaching friend and enemy alike. And suddenly, the galaxy saw not a rogue Earth breaking rules, but a force that stood when others fell, not out of conquest, but out of duty. And something shifted, deeper than strategy or fear, something in the hearts of people, soldiers and leaders across the stars, because Earth had not demanded power or recognition, it had simply stood in the fire while others ran. And that truth could not be silenced, not even by those who still doubted. And as the enemy regrouped, now hesitant, no longer sure of easy victory, new messages began arriving at Earth's command. Offers of alliance, requests for training, and even apologies from former critics. And Alyssa Tran, standing in the quiet center of her bridge, understood what had happened. The turning point was not just a battle won, but a shift in belief, a moment when fear gave way to trust, when silence became strength. And though the war was not over, the tide had changed, And now, for the first time in centuries, the galaxy no longer looked to its oldest empires for hope. It looked to Earth. The final strike began in silence, not with a great announcement or a declaration of war, but with the sudden blackout of 10 star systems at once, as the enemy's last and most dangerous weapon was unleashed, a massive mobile fortress known only as the Shroud, hidden deep beyond known space, built from stolen Concord technology and powered by an artificial singularity, moving like a dark moon across the stars. And behind it followed a swarm of warships twisted by Ral Thera engineering and the minds of ancient enemy machines, all aimed at one goal: the complete destruction of Earth and every ally that had stood beside it. And as the skies of distant worlds cracked under bombardment, and as cities fell silent beneath the weight of energy blasts, the ghost fleet of Saul received a single message from the enemy: submit or vanish. But Earth had made its choice long ago, and there was no fear left in its voice, no hesitation, only movement, as every ship in the hidden fleet emerged once more, not in secrecy, but in full strength, coming together above Earth's orbit before warping out as one, leaving the planet protected by automated rings, while its defenders charged into the heart of darkness. And the moment the Shroud appeared near the neutral station of Cyrelos Gate, tearing open a gravitational rift with its passage, Earth's fleet struck from 3 directions, using a tactic no one had ever seen: multi-phase jump threading, splitting fleets across timed intervals and coordinates so precise that they appeared to blink in and out of the sky like lightning bolts, confusing enemy scanners and surrounding the Shroud in minutes. And the battle that followed did not resemble anything the galaxy had ever known, for it was not just ships and weapons, but the clashing of systems, strategies, and wills, as Earth's AI-piloted cruisers danced between enemy fire like phantoms, as human pilots in their sleek black fighters dove into the gaps between energy shields, striking key cores, detonating reactors, breaking chains of command faster than the enemy could adapt. And all while Alyssa Tran, aboard the Arclight, watched the enemy's movements unfold across layers of space like a map in her mind, guiding her fleet not with panic, but with precise orders that turned the tide one moment at a time. And still, the Shroud remained, its hull absorbing everything thrown at it, its singularity pulse ripping through even the strongest shields. And hope began to falter, until Earth's final gambit was revealed, as the Helix Lance, a ship never seen before, emerged from a dark corner of space, its body shaped like a long spear of metal and light, forged from theories once thought impossible, its core powered by a captured quantum ripple reactor, and with all systems focused on the Shroud. It charged its weapon, a single concentrated burst meant to unravel gravity fields at a molecular level. And as the enemy turned its full attention toward it, Earth's remaining ships created a distraction, drawing fire, creating blind spots, while the Helix Lance fired its beam directly into the heart of the Shroud. And for a moment, the stars themselves seemed to bend inward as the pulse tore through space, ripping the Shroud's shield matrix in half, exposing its singularity core to the void. And then came silence, before the Shroud exploded in a slow ripple, not in flames, but in a wave of collapsing gravity, pulling its own fleet inward, breaking apart what had been built in hatred and fear. And when it was over, only Earth's ships remained in the sky, floating calmly among the wreckage, not cheering, not gloating, just watching, making sure the galaxy knew that this war was over. Not because Earth had won, but because Earth had ended it. And in the days that followed, the remaining enemy forces surrendered or scattered, the Concord returned to rebuild, and Earth stood quietly once again, never asking for thrones or glory, but for peace. And though the stars bore new scars, and the galaxy would take years to heal, every system, every station, every leader now remembered the day the skies shattered, not from fear, but from the roar of ships once mocked, once doubted, now proven. And in that memory, the name of Earth was written not in ashes, but in starlight.